I'd like to welcome our viewing public as well as our commissioners to the third quarter meeting of Arkansas PBS. And with that, I'll call this meeting to order. The first order of business is the commissioners received minutes from the last meeting in their packet, and we assume they've all been reviewed, and if anybody has any questions, we'll entertain questions, and if not, we will entertain a motion for approval.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the minutes as submitted.
There's been a motion made. Is there a second? And a second is made. All in favor say aye. Next is the chairman's report. And y'all are not going to believe this, but I have absolutely nothing to say today. So we'll see how it goes at the end of the meeting. Yeah. That might make the paper. I don't know. So next we have Courtney's report.
Right up.
And she's got a lot to say.
I do. So,
So hang on.
You didn't have anything to say. So because we're looking at the full fiscal year of FY24 in a lot of ways today, and in our commission packet, I was kind of inspired to do a little bit of an overview. I hope it's not too long. I will talk as fast as I can. But fiscal year 24 has been just another exceptional year of accomplishment for Arkansas PBS, and looking at everything in one place, because I see it every day, but looking at things in one place, I mean, it boggles my mind how we do it. We don't have office hours per se. I mean, we do, but it's very difficult in a media company to have pure office hours, and this team works until the job is done, and they do it for a mission they believe in, and our limited resources actually go an incredibly long way. I'll touch on each of our functions today, but I'm going to lean particularly into our education division and how it works. Welcome, Gary. Arkansas law requires that the Department of Education must provide a minimum of one source of professional development that is free and online to Arkansas educators and school administrators. As we teach the teachers, Arkansas PBS proudly provides that required free and online PD through Arkansas Ideas, which is a discretionary grant from the Department of Education. This partnership with ADE has been in existence for 19 years now, and it now supports over 92,000 licensed educators and administrators, with a 57% increase in registered teacher learners over the past 4 years. Our Ideas team creates and delivers PD that are assigned by ADE to directly support the implementation of the Governor's LEARNS Act, which is Act 237. The Ideas on-staff licensed educators, producers, and IT specialists receive specific grant goals, objectives, and deliverables from ADE that have to be fulfilled for the grant, and all directives for Ideas are determined by ADE. To assess teachers' gains in knowledge in our courses, we perform pre- and post-testing on many law-based courses. And to obtain credit hours for ADE-approved Ideas courses, educators are required to pass an assessment test at a mastery level of 80% or higher. In FY24, the Ideas team created an array of courses, some in support of Arkansas laws, ranging from courses on mental health awareness to human trafficking and the Holocaust. We delivered courses based on multiple ethics standards, on fostering positive educational transitions for children of military families, on the total eclipse in Arkansas, and on water safety designed specifically for parents. Utilizing now this expertise and experience of the Ideas team, ADE provided supplemental grants for micro-credential courses to expand educators' horizons and to fund our 18-episode live-action series, Mystery League, covering K through 2 social studies standards. As a side note, Mystery League contributed to economic development in our state, produced entirely on Arkansas locations with Arkansas crew and Arkansas talent. Approximately $3.1 million in revenue went directly to Arkansas employers and small business owners. We also have activities in our education division that are not funded by the IDEAS grant. We, in 2024, we held many events for early learners across the state through our Ready to Learn initiative, which is funded by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, and our own Arkansas PBS Read to Succeed initiative, funded by the Charles M. and Joan R. Taylor Foundation. Now, in broad stroke, I'm just going to hit on our other functions. In production, in addition to our regular programming like Arkansas Week, Quiz Bowl, high school sports championships, and live streaming programming like Arkansas Citizens Access Network, Arkansas Live, our stories in 2024 contributed to community education. From the history that was revealed in every attic find and family heirloom of Arkansas treasures. So each one of those really was a history story related to Arkansas, all the way to Arkansas holiday traditions and celebrating Arkansas, learning about autism in Autism Amplified, Totality, live eclipse across Arkansas, and our documentaries that are now in post, produced over 2024. One of them taking us on a journey of a fearless young Fayetteville man and his friend as they aim to make history along the Northwest Passage, and the story behind the statues of Daisy Bates and Johnny Cash to represent Arkansas in Washington Statuary Hall. In operations, in addition to maintaining and updating our equipment and facilities, the operations team supported studio production and live streaming of events like the Women's Military Symposium and the Arkansas Governor's Arts Awards. In FY 2024, operations delivered video interviews of 556 World War II veterans to the Veterans History Project at the Library of Congress. They helmed the ongoing Arkansas PBS Video Archive Project, converting our 50-plus year archives to digital that will make this invaluable asset available worldwide and inspires this network to tell more stories about Arkansas. In marketing and engagement, we do both traditional and digital marketing, of course, as communications, programming, support of membership building, and the coordination of Arkansas Live. In support of education in FY24, marketing created and launched a new Arkansas Ideas website, web pages for Arkansas Ideas courses, and gave strong support of all educational productions. Marketing developed and launched both a new myarkansaspbs.org website and a new My Arkansas PBS Foundation website. We had stunning audience growth, 33% on LinkedIn, on Instagram, 25% on Instagram, 13% on YouTube, 9% on Facebook, 5% year over year on PBS nonlinear streams, 5% on X, formerly Twitter, and 4% year over year in PBS app downloads. Also at Crystal Bridges, marketing and engagement produced a Northwest Arkansas stop of the National Antiques Roadshow and held a stunning 700-person event with Academy Award-winning actor Mary Steenburgen for our own national production, Southern Storytellers. And to top that off, audiences were kept up to date each month through the video series this month at Arkansas PBS that you can see online and on air. Our tower engineering team course, maintains our towers, our system of towers, with great care. The towers provide not only programming, but also the critical broadcast nerve center of the state's emergency alert system. By law, all broadcasters, TV and radio in the state of Arkansas, must monitor the Arkansas PBS signal for transmission to relay critical emergency warnings to Arkansans statewide. Engineering also huddled with the FCC and with the emergency alert system co-chairman to discuss the new EAS plan for the state. Studio engineering not only took care of engineering all across this building, but in 2024 the team undertook a complete rebuild of our master control room, redesigns of both our control room C and audio control room C, and a redesign of our central equipment room, as well as engineering support for every production, virtual and studio, that we do. For the finance division, Arkansas PBS received a huge influx of federal funds during COVID, as we know, for an expansion of our broadcast reach. And now we cover 96% of the state's population, and more recently we got significant funds for two of the largest single education projects ever managed by our network. In 2024, Arkansas PBS began a return to a more normal, usual workload after all of this load, giving us some relief from capacity challenges, which I know the staff was very glad to see, so was I. And following the audit activity of the past couple of years, our agency has been extremely proactive. We have a new associate director, CFO, joined us in spring of 2024 to round out a refresh of our fiscal division that includes both an experienced procurement coordinator and experienced controller, a replacement for our retiring accounting coordinator, as well as the addition of an important fiscal manager role to kind of pull it all together. We created an in-house procurement handbook pinpointing the specific challenges that we face, as a network, as we navigate our complicated role both as an independent state agency and as a media network. We hold divisional procurement trainings to ensure that existing staff and new hires fully understand the applications of procurement law within our unique media environment, and we will be ready for future challenges. And finally, we have a well-coordinated public-private partnership. Our virtual affiliated our vital affiliated 501c3 Arkansas PBS Foundation, under the strong leadership of CEO Marge Betley, has reached new levels of success in supporting the network through ever-increasing membership revenue, a successful grant strategy, and efforts that elevate public awareness of all the network offerings that we offer to the community. So I'm sorry for the long report. I know that was long-winded, but we've done a lot this year, and please do celebrate FY 2024 with us by reading the detailed reports from our division heads that follow. Bravo to our team. And commissioners, I want to thank you again for your continued support and advocacy for Arkansas PBS. Thank you. Any questions I can answer?
Well, I was going to say, it's good I didn't have anything to say. You had a lot
I know. How long did I take? I hope it wasn't too long.
I can remember a couple years ago, we all felt like we'd bit off more than we could chew. I know Courtney thought that, the staff thought that, they were exhausted. But when you're on the other side, you're looking back, it gives me a lot of pride to see what we've done.
Yep, amen.
So congratulations to everybody. Anybody else have any questions or comments?
I want to say that it's a very robust response to some of the challenges that we've discussed in the past, and just want to congratulate you on that.
Thank you.
On both the staffing and the structure. I think that'll serve us well going forward.
It will. We take it seriously. Thank you.
Okay, now Jason, here's the most exciting part, is the finances.
Oh, boy.
All right, good morning, everybody. The financial report was in the packets that was distributed to everybody. High level, we have healthy cash balances, and overall the inflows and outflows of cash during fiscal year 2024 were pretty well level. So some small fluctuations, but overall the changes from 2023 to 2024, no very large swings to really speak to. But there is, so let me pause there before I transition into the CSA, which is a control self-assessment, and that is a almost 130-page document. And so before I transition into that, were there any questions or any points of clarification on the financial report that anyone would like to speak to? Okay, seeing none. All right, so to the other large document that accompanied the email that came to you, some of you, this may be, you've experienced this a number of times. For some members, this may be the first time you're seeing this. The Arkansas Office of the Inspector General, the Office of Internal Audit, is tasked with ensuring that the operational as well as the financial risks to the state operations of all agencies. So this is not just PBS, this is every state agency must engage in this exercise to identify operational risks as well as financial risks. The document that was provided to you for your review is where the leadership and the management of this organization have gone through and systematically worked to identify operational risks as well as potential financial risks, and what controls, steps, methods we can take and implement and ensure we have in place to mitigate those potential risks. This is worked on in conjunction with the Office of the Inspector General, so certainly as we work through this process, they will have input, we can respond. This is a collaborative effort of us identifying risks, mitigating those risks, and of course working with the Office of the Inspector General to ensure that we are in compliance with these items and ensure continued operational and fiscal responsibility and support to the citizens of Arkansas. With all of that, we also collaborated with Commissioner Harrington. She has assisted with this process with this agency in the past, and so at this time, of course, I'm happy to answer any questions anybody may have about the document that was provided, but that's just kind of a 1,000-foot overview. I believe Commissioner Harrington may have a couple more comments to add.
I was just going to explain for people who aren't familiar with this process that, as you said, we are required as a board to approve it. That's in the documents from the Inspector General's office. But because we're a policy board and not a management or an operations board, then this is just a high-level look to make sure that we feel like the policies have been followed. But we don't have any involvement whatsoever in preparing it. I reviewed it because I've done that in the past, and I worked for a state agency for a few years, and I've prepared 2 or 3 of them myself, and so I'm familiar with the process, and I think that's the reason that that I've been asked to do it. Everybody can read it. Once you see the pattern, it's not that hard to follow. But I asked a handful of questions and got the answers that I was looking for when I wasn't sure if something didn't make sense to me. There were a couple times that I requested that they might consider 2 or 3 more controls, and at times they explained to me what controls were already there, and so there was no need for any more. And I think generally everything seemed to be really well covered. It's a long, kind of arduous process that everybody in the agency has to participate in, because so many of the controls are not financial. You think of it as being a financial task, but this one is not. It's common in other organizations, but it's required by the state here. And so there's no promise that there will be no errors because these controls are in place, but it will mitigate, as Jason just said, the chance that something will not, that there will be a problem, whether it's somebody taking a piece of equipment or not following the process. There are controls for all those things. I'm sure if you have questions, Jason's going to be the one who's going to need to answer them. But, for my part, I'm satisfied that a thorough job has been done, and I will recommend that the commission approves the CSA. It's done. Maybe did you say every other year? It's a biannual.
Yes, every other year. Yes, biannual.
Effort.
And so certainly, I'm open to any questions that anybody has. This will require a motion by the commission to approve the control self-assessment, and then at that point, I will then route the corresponding minutes and documents to the Office of the Inspector General, and then if they spot any additional concerns or anything that they would like further flushed out, then we will engage in that process.
I read through it as well, and it's a quality document. You hit you dotted the I's and crossed the T's.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Go ahead.
How did it compare to previous year or 2 years ago?
You really use previous years as a baseline and make adjustments. So there are a number of controls that were put in place in 2014, and it indicates when they first.
2014?
Mm-hmm. And then every year you look at those controls and you either add to them or eliminate things that are no longer relevant. But every year, and there are some dates in there that tell you when something has when it's become necessary to include a new risk or a new control. But every year you go through every one of them and revise whatever needs to be revised.
So in this year's version, it's reasonably similar to the last one that was presented to the commission, except for positions that either have been repurposed or otherwise. So some of the position responsibilities were changed. Also, any recommendations that have come out of our legislative audits over the last couple of years, those were integrated to ensure that our CSA includes any recommendations for audit. So it is a living, breathing document that for most of the structure is still reasonably the same, except for minor modifications that would have had to have been made to include any recommendations from audit.
Okay, well, the chair will entertain a motion to approve the controlled self-assessment.
So moved.
And there's a second.
Second.
All in favor say aye. Aye. All against say nay. Good, it passes. Lindsay, you are up next.
Well, Courtney covered mine, so we're just gonna.
I'm sorry.
You're okay. It's mostly good things. So we have 2 channels that we're going to keep an eye on. But as Courtney mentioned, so this is just an overview of what happened in fiscal 24. That's all represented by the orange lines on these charts as compared to fiscal 23 in blue. So PBS streams and PBS app downloads up 5% year over year and 4% year over year respectively. Really happy to see that. That tells us our audience is engaged in PBS content and downloading the app, that is growing an audience who's viewing it digitally. YouTube was up 13%. Again, we get a lot of streams with our live streams that Courtney mentioned, Arcan and Arkansas Live, as well as sports. So I'm happy to see that going up. As Courtney mentioned, we did launch 3 new websites. with that, you do kind of do a reset. So we would expect that we would lose a little bit of traffic, and you can see that dip around September. That's about, we launched in at the end of August, and we had a dip as we started to rebuild that domain authority. So that's kind of expected. It's not anything that gives me alarm to see these numbers down, but it is something we're going to keep an eye on. We had, leading up to the redesign, because we didn't want our audience to rely too heavily on visiting certain pages, we had made an intentional strategy to keep them on social media platforms or redirect them other places, knowing that some of these links would be gone when we rebuilt the website. So we had kind of started a pattern of not directing traffic to the website. So again, nothing that gives me a lot of pause, but something that we'll keep our eyes on. Email, I don't know what to tell you, except that is something that we have, we're troubleshooting in the vein of, we've now onboarded a new vendor. We will be transitioning to that platform in probably the next 60 days, and hopefully have much better analytics. So the current vendor that we have, we know that we lose visitors, but we don't know why. And so to give you an idea of what happens there, PBS, national PBS will give us prospect lists, and that list could be 20,000, it could be 50,000, and those are people that are kind of lookalike audiences that they share with all of the peer stations to see if that's somebody who would be interested in receiving our newsletter. So if we put 25,000 new people in and they're not interested in our list because they came from a prospect, that could be a really high and then a really big low. And so we've seen that. So what we don't know when we lose visitors with our current platform and those analytics, we don't know if that's all prospects or if it's current subscribers who we would want to hang on to, and then that's a real problem. So with our new vendor that we've just onboarded, their analytics will be able to tell us that, so we'll know why we're losing visitors. But we still have a really healthy email list, especially compared to some of our peer PBS stations, to the tune of we know we have about roughly 26,000 member subscribers, and then another 80,000 who are not paying members, but they receive our email list. So roughly, close to 100,000, and I was on a call with another station a couple of days ago and told them that that's what our email list was at, and they were flabbergasted. So still a really healthy list, but we want to get to the bottom of why we see those dips that you see there in the orange. And then everything else went up. Twitter, like Courtney mentioned, went up 5%. The two social media platforms that we've nurtured the most have been Instagram and LinkedIn. Facebook is already pretty saturated, so still had 9% growth, but as you can see, those numbers, we have getting close to 40,000 subscribers on Facebook, compared to, getting close now to about 6,000 on Instagram and about 2,000 on LinkedIn. So we've been intentionally really nurturing Instagram and LinkedIn. Instagram to bring in a younger audience, LinkedIn because our Axim data told us that our more mature audience and board members and things like that. So I'm trying to be very politically correct with that. She saw me and laughed. That LinkedIn, that's where that audience is. When we look at the programs of what people were watching and what genres were the most popular over the course of the full fiscal 24, this is not necessarily by views. They are listed left to right with most views to least views, but this is number of programs in a genre. So number of programs watched in the drama genre usually does take top billing for us. Science and nature genre and culture genre usually will fall in second and third place. And like you can see, both of those have 6 programs in them. Probably the most exciting thing for me when I look at that. And so this is national content and local content. When you look at science and nature and culture, there's only one national program in each of those. The rest of that is our local content that people are watching, so that's huge. When you look at that third row, news and public affairs, again, 1 national program, 2 local programs. History is all local programs. Education children is all local programs. And then we have 1 outlier, the home and how-to. Cooking on the Wild Side continues to be a viewer favorite, so that's out there. This slide is really just a reference slide. It shows how I came to that breakout by genre. So these are the different measurable platforms, the YouTube views, local programs, general audience programs for national content, and then those who are logged in as passport streams. So this is kind of the reference that gets us to the slide before. That's what I've got. If there are questions, I will take questions.
Lindsay, like on X, there's been a 5% increase from last year.
Mm-hmm.
Now, is that 5%, is it representing people saying, oh, Arkansas PBS, I'm going to follow them, and
Right.
clicks on it?
Yes, these are subscribers, followers.
And then when you click on a post that you want to see, does that register in any way?
I'm not tracking that here, but that engagement, we do track that in other
So we got
reports.
5% more on X. Okay.
Yeah, and that's, again, with me being head of audience, my goal is to try and grow as many people who are following and subscribing to Arkansas PBS. So with these reports, I'm mainly reporting on audience growth, but we do track the engagement internally.
Gotcha. Okay. Anything else for Lindsay? Sajni, you're up with education.
Okay, nice to be with all of you. I'll be fairly brief on mine, but I wanted to just give you some highlights in education. Since the past 3 months have gone by, so I looked up the numbers. Arkansas Ideas has 94,365 learners in the past 3 months, so that's about a couple of thousand added learners. And I think that increase is always because there's new teachers, individuals who decide to become a teacher. And we're part of the teacher prep program where they take our courses of law-based courses to become a teacher. So that's in the traditional pathways for teacher prep and also non-traditional pathways. We have had 81,000 course completions since June. And we've had 114,000 credit hours earned by our learners. And we have 869 credit hours available. I thought I'd pick out, or my team picked out, the top 5 courses in the last 3 months. 3 of them have been our bullying courses, so we have many bullying courses, and 2 have been human trafficking. One specifically for bus drivers, because they're our first line of defense often with human trafficking. So those are our top 5. And the other information, I wanted to give you kind of a lens into some of our law-based courses that we have. And so I'm just going to briefly say, in support of crisis response training, which is on page 10 of the LEARNS Act, we have 2 courses available for that. That is if perhaps a school deals with death, whether it was from an illness, whether it was something more tragic, car accident, whatever, we give them those tools on crisis communication and how to deal with parents, to grieve also, of course, as individuals. And so we have 2 that support the LEARNS Act. In support of mental health training, which is on page 11 of the LEARNS Act, we have 7 courses. And that has become increasingly important in education to provide mental health training. The next we have is statewide assessments, page 13 and 14 of the LEARNS Act. We give a code of ethics on testing integrity. For child abuse and human trafficking, page 22 of the LEARNS Act, we give many courses. I'm sorry, I don't have the numbers, but we have to update that every couple years because things change, right? And so we always give a lot of availability on that. One thing maybe a lot of folks may not understand is we have 2 learning paths that are part of the Arkansas Tutoring Core. So you can take 2 pathways on ideas to support new tutors in our state, and that's on page 25 of the LEARNS Act. Just a couple more. To support career and technical education, page 34 of the LEARNS Act, we give a lot of computer and science and technology courses. We provide on page 44 and 45 of the LEARNS Act training for ethics violations, so the code of ethics. If something you may perhaps have violated ethics, they can take training on our LMS. And then finally, the Science of Reading Awareness Pathway, page 45 and 46 of the LEARNS Act, that is for teachers who do not teach in in English language arts. Those, because it's so important, they require for new teachers when they come in to have an understanding of the importance of that program to our state. So they are required to take a 14 course to just understand it. They do not actually teach it, but they are required to do that if they want to become a teacher in our state, a licensed teacher. And then we do provide on page 107 of the LEARNS Act dyslexia training, so that we provide a resource for that. So we do have new programs coming out. We're making that list with ADE now, or we're getting that list really from them, and we are in the middle of doing a new bullying course, new child maltreatment course, 2 more human trafficking courses, which we just launched the last one, and it was amazing. We had someone who's a support unit for 15 counties. We had the Arkansas State Police on there, and we had a county sheriff's office there to explain it in real terms. This is what it looks like. It may not look like you think it does. And so really to understand it from the experts. And we launched the first out of 3 of those human trafficking about a month ago. So that's it. I don't really have that much.
Good job.
Thank you.
Quick question.
Yes.
The initial number you shared, you said, let's say 90-something thousand. Those aren't unique. It might account for one person doing 3 courses.
No, it's one person. These are just individuals. The 94,000 are individuals.
So how does that number exceed the number of teachers and staff that we have in Arkansas?
So a good example is the school bus drivers, right? So they're all school staff. They have to have an AILS account. They have to be in this. So administrators, nurses, counselors, bus drivers, licensed teachers, non-licensed teachers, as long as they have a AILS account that connects, it goes directly to AD's database. We don't control that. They can't register unless it's connected to that. They can. So many more. And you had mentioned last time, someone who may have lost their license would go to IDEAS to regain it. If they had a lapse, they could go. And so they're not necessarily in the schools right now, but they do have an AILS number because they were. Yes.
Kind of follow-up,
Yeah.
would that then include people who are trying to get approved for substitute teaching? Do they have any of these things, or does that help them
To do
to
substitute.
to substitute?
I will check if there's a requirement to take these law-based courses for them, and I'll find out for you, yeah. And I looked in a little bit to your question about allowing more users on there. We have a restricted number of users. It's expensive. Our LMS is very expensive. So if we start going per ADE into other tiers, we'll explore what does that mean financially and so on. So yes.
I have a question if Gary's finished.
Well,
Go ahead.
that's a very, very high number, especially when you look at the number of classified, certified. So it might be helpful to think about it in terms of the percentage of the overall, to know what that is, to show what kind of coverage you're getting among the educational employees
Yeah.
or potential employees.
Sure, I have,
It's very
because a lot of,
impressive.
and of course, we're always trying to get more teachers in. A lot of those are new, young individuals who have decided to be teachers. So I think that's why the numbers go up. People go out, people come in, but if they did have an AILS number, they can stay on there, even if they have left the.
If they ever had one.
Right, if they ever had one, that's a background check and all those things that they do, that they require to.
Could, like the human trafficking, it's such an important subject for churches, scout leaders, to be able to recognize it. Are there some of those courses that maybe you don't go through the vendor, they still are available as professional development, but you consider putting out publicly so the public could access those and inform themselves?
Yeah, we have videos. It's kind of what we talked about. So Lindsay, when they talked about they made the website version, that is the the items on ideas that are open to the public.
Perfect.
There are some resources in water safety for parents that we make available to everyone. Some things are more applicable because that is your job and your roles and responsibilities. But if we find something, anyone who watched this would benefit from it, we absolutely try to put it in there, and you can just Google and find those videos and stuff. They won't have the structure required for PD, like there's ethical standards of how you assess people,
Right.
you take it and things, and I don't think the public wants to go through that. They just may want to know a little bit more about mental health or so on. So yes, we have, when we can, we make those available. And as far as like, and we've gotten in those, as far as like churches and so on being able to take them, we'll always find a way to put them on a public site. But again, once it becomes let's say every church, that's thousands and thousands of people, it now becomes more of a there's the LMS, you purchase it by cost.
Oh, I get it.
Yeah,
but,
so
hey,
that just gets into that, and it becomes something, if ADE asked it, then they would support it with the grant and financially. So we just wait to hear what they'd like to do. But yes, there's lots of good things out there for the public on ideas, and Lindsay got it all up there for us.
So to dovetail with Gary, are the courses that are not on the website, they're more involved, they're lengthier pieces?
Yes,
So the shorter things can be put on the website?
Right. So like we had students, we wanted to give a perspective from students, like young adults that got out of K-12 education, what mental health meant to them, what they needed, what they struggled with, what they overcame and how they managed that. So we have some videos out there that help them, and they're talking to each other, right? They don't always want to hear someone my age or something, but really just that conversation. So yes, we do those anytime we see they're applicable, and we try to produce things where it is applicable to more audiences. Or we'll do, okay, we did the teacher stuff, let's do one more segment, let's talk, in more lay terms for other individuals to benefit. So, yeah. Yes.
So the dyslexia training, for instance, and the computer training also, what is the objective for someone who takes that course? I mean, you're not going to be fully dyslexic. Is it awareness of how to spot dyslexia? What is the objective of those two courses?
Our course, to be honest, is very old, so we think it's outdated, and it's on the slate to do this year. And so we will work with ADE, with their expert. So I can get you the goals, the bullet points, but we have not received them. I think I'm not really sure how they want to address the new course. I
guess I'm just thinking there's a lot more. I mean, you're not training someone in a.
That's right.
That's a specialized
We
skill.
are a resource to take care of a part of an objective, likely, because we're just a unit. We're not the.
You can't do it all.
Right, we're
And
not
the same with
first
the
line of
computer
defense
training.
I'm
The
sorry.
same with the computer training.
That's right. It was a part of the higher education unit. A while back, I think Dr. Owen had started the program, and it offers some computer technology for getting high school students interested in those subjects. And so I don't know if that's required right now in high school, like communication, but it may be that they take at least a course to introduce them to that whole world. And so, yes, it was produced, I believe, by ADE in collaboration with higher education.
This dovetails on the previous questions and your response about the expense. I wonder, given the interest sort of implicit in our questions today, whether there is a way to, and it may be a capacity issue, to make some of these things available to other occupations in a way that is fiscally doable? I just don't know the answer to that, because I'm sitting here thinking about human trafficking, and also on the other side, care for victims. There's a certain way that if you're going to work with them or represent them, and the same with bullying. And it seems to me, when you talked about sort of police officers, and that there may be, but again, it may be a capacity issue too, to a way to do it where it's financially feasible and broader, has a broader opening to other people.
Yes, I mean, I think there was coaches. So we do required training for coaches because they have to know how to deal with concussions or heat illness or things like that. It's so important. They need to know those signs. But also they said, kind of like what you said, Gary, there's a lot of coaches that are mom and dad that are in churches and things like that, and it does become that capacity issue. For us, we have 3 people on the help desk, right? So as more things get added on, and I'm sure that's what ADE looks like, that means more staff for help desk and so on, technical support and things like that. But yes, we are, like, for the coaches, we're like, this actually could be up to $1 million. Like, there are a lot of people, when their kid is 5th grade, they'll coach, they're out, then a new mom, and so on. So you have to kind of know what where it could go up to, or how many police officers there are. So those are always things, and we can, we're excited that people want to take more, and we'll always look into it and see.
Okay. Any more questions? Marge, you're up.
All right. Good to see you all today. Just want to give a few highlights from the written report on our FY24 performance. These figures are not audited, but we do not anticipate any significant changes to them. So just a few highlights here. That in overall revenue growth for the foundation year over year, we are looking at 3.9% growth from FY24 over FY23. Now, membership revenue represents, in this past year, about 77% of our overall revenue. We saw 2.6% growth there. Now, this is one area where we are actually able to see some national benchmarks and how we stack up against other PBS networks, which is very helpful. And that national average is 2.5%. So we are running right in line with what that national growth rate is. In our donor growth, that's the number of donors, we saw 3.1% growth in this past year. Now, this is where I think it gets interesting. Nationally, the national median was 1.2% growth. And if we look at medium-sized stations, which is what Arkansas PBS falls into, the growth was 0.8%. So in donor growth, we are in a very healthy place year over year, even if our revenue numbers are just exactly keeping pace with those national figures. In sustainer growth, sustainers are those folks who give to us on a monthly basis, and that is particularly important for us because that gives us a level of reliability, of predictability of revenue, and also because once someone becomes a sustainer, they are more likely to remain a donor over a lengthy period of time. Our growth in the number of sustainers this past year was 9.8%. We're very happy about that. Nationally, that number was 8.7%. Medium-sized stations, which is where, again, Arkansas PBS falls, 6.3%. So we are tracking well ahead of the medians in those areas. Another key area that's not on here is, in your report, is that our retention, our revenue retention. And this is, again, a very important area because it is much less expensive, both from a financial standpoint and from a human resource standpoint, to retain a donor than it is to acquire a new one. So we retained 80% of our donors in this past year. So that's pretty great. That is the highest we have been. I want to talk a little bit just briefly about digital fundraising. Digital fundraising right now makes up less than 8% of our overall, but we recognize that every day that passes, this is an increasingly important channel for us to be fundraising in. So thanks in great part to our collaboration with our colleagues in marketing. We've really put some focus on this in the past year, and we'll be doing even more in FY25, which we'll share more with you at the December meeting on that one. But I'm very pleased that in 3 key areas, we've seen growth, year-over-year growth of more than 25%. So in email fundraising, we saw growth of 27.9% in FY24 over FY23. In website fundraising, 25.5% growth. And in social media fundraising, 277% growth. Now, with the caveat that that only makes up 0.2% of our overall revenue right now, but we know that that is where the future is taking us. So we need to be leaning more heavily into that, and I'm happy with the results that we're seeing so far. So that is that's just a little bit of an overview of the FY24 numbers. If at any point you would like more detail, I'm a data nerd, so I'm happy to share more of that. I wanted to share 2 other pieces of information that is part of our FY25 activities. We just submitted a grant application for federal funding. This is through CPB, Corporation for Public Broadcasting, with funding from FEMA. Actually, it's called the Next Generation Warning System. If awarded, we would see a little over $920,000 of federal funds that would go to support replacement of aging transmitters that are a part of the emergency alert system for the state. These kinds of grant opportunities don't come along super often, so when we see them, we need to try to hop on them if we feel like we have good eligibility in this. So we'll keep you posted on that. We just submitted it last week, but again, that would help to replace 3 transmitters that are anywhere between 14 and 31 years old right now. So we know that those areas that get their emergency alert signals from those transmitters, we need to know that that equipment is reliable and in good shape. The last thing I'll leave you with is not at all money related, but that we have our 2 Family Day events coming up, October 12th in Springdale and October 19th here at the Arkansas PBS studios in Conway. We have about 5,000 people who show up at those events, lots of little kids, lots of young families, and it's an entirely free day of fun and educational activities for them, and with a lot of our partners from around the state who participate in that. We have been very happy to welcome a few of our commissioners as volunteers in the past. Cindy Nance was at Springdale with us last year. Annette has been here with us in Conway. If you are available and so inclined, we would welcome you to join us as volunteers. We have everything from handing out goldfish crackers and string cheese to face painting to arts and crafts and a whole lot more. So it's a really, I will say, it is one day that makes you very, very proud of what it is that Arkansas PBS means to this state. And with that, I will take any questions.
Do we know why the 20% who leave? I think you said something like 80% retention.
Yes, it's a great question. And, you know, there are a number of answers for it. Sometimes people move. Sometimes people pass. We do have a donor base that is largely tilted towards the older demographic, so we do see that. We also see that, sometimes people's interests change. There are people who come on board because they are very interested in something specific that is on Passport, and we do our best to try to get them to stay, to say, okay, we know you love this, check this out. And a lot of the messaging that we try to put out right now, because we know that a lot of people who do initially come to us give to us because of programming, it's come for the programming, stay for the mission. Because really it is so much more than the programming that is the impact that our donors have when they make a contribution to Arkansas PBS. So there are a variety of reasons. We have certainly seen in the last 2 years that those donors who are giving at less than $500 a year, that their average gift amount has gone down a bit. And we take that as an indication not of anything that we're doing, but of reactions to the economy, and real or perceived. But the fact that we've seen really healthy growth in the number of donors tells us that our messaging and the community outreach efforts especially, I think, are important in sending that message that this is an endeavor worthy of community support.
Ago, Lindsay, you gave us a real deep dive on who's where. There were more, I want to say, young men were on YouTube, and and so is there a way to sort of capture that? So the folks who tune in for sports and those amazing stories about the individual athletes, and they get one thing over here. So I know you were talking about like digital marketing versus other, and we're just trying to pull all that together, like the different demographics, where they are, and if we can hook them in.
It's a great, you're spot on with that, Cindy, because what we see more and more, it used to be that, the 80% of our revenue came out of our membership revenue, came out of on-air pledge, and we could tell then exactly what someone was watching based on the timestamp of when they were giving. So we had a lot of great data around that, and we still have that data, but the data comes from so many more directions now. So there are so many more pockets of analytics that we're looking at. And with, as I mentioned, with the digital revenue, kind of trying to really meet people where they are, which from a human resource perspective is challenging, because you're trying to craft all those different messages. But you're right, we're trying to hit people. If we know you're interested in sports, let's lean into that and talk to you about that. If we know that your real passion is early childhood education, let's lean into that, because we do so many things. So,
I was wondering if you could notice from the time people, not time of day, but the month, the calendar month, do we get a boost of subscribers? The way I understand the younger folks, they stream because they want to watch X, and they go stream for a month and they binge that, and that's the show they watch, and then they let that. So do we see it spike like when football comes around in the championships, or do you see that?
Where we see that spike in particular is when there's a new season of All Creatures Great and Small.
I was thinking the same thing, yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. It's the big
because
dramas.
there are certain ones, and especially because with some of those dramas, when the first episode happens on broadcast, the entire season sometimes drops into Passport all at once. So for those who want to binge watch something, Passport is the way that they're going to do that. So we tend to see the spikes more around something like that.
And do Passport members typically just do the minimum, or do you sometimes get a little more?
That is one of the challenges. A lot of the Passport members will do that minimum, and that's where we really try to, and we've got some strategies for pushing harder on that this year, of trying to not just get their donation to increase, but to communicate about that there is more that Arkansas PBS offers than just the programming, that it's the community engagement events, that it's the impact on early childhood learning, that all of those things are a part of it, so that hopefully, even if they remain at that passport threshold of $60 a year, that they'll be in the 80% of retention and not the 20% of attrition.
Well, this kind of involves Sanjay, and I don't want to ask too many more questions, but is there a way, if someone wanted the resources that Sajni has, that we could say, like an all access, I get the New York Times and I vary whether I want to pay $5 for the games or whether I want full access, and I'm like, I can't pay that much, and then I scale back. But I mean, is there a way they could pay for better access that would cover some of the courses?
I suspect that.
Or is that all ADE?
I think that's a question for ADE and not for us on that one.
But I mean, we are public education. We're not just ADE education. Why couldn't we expand that so that more people in Arkansas could benefit? Even if we had to pay a little bit for it.
We do have one thing, and it really doesn't have that many users right now, but we have an LMS, very small, that's non-ideas. And so we have Faye Jones School of Design on there. We've had the school boards on there in the past. We've had other clients that that ADE did not signal that they are part of this, that they can go there. So it would be, it's an interesting thing. What content do we have that we could put in this thing? We would have to increase that LMS. It's very small license, I think 7,500, but yeah,
just something to think about.
Yeah.
And just, it may sound like a minor technical point, but it's one that's very important to PBS National. Passport, we make a real distinction, is that it is a donor benefit as opposed to something that people pay for. So just for the record and posterity on that one. But
you get more donor benefits the more you give.
Absolutely. That part is very true, certainly with the other donor benefits that we do offer.
Do you have metrics around how the increased public engagement has affected membership? I'm thinking about the Arkansas Antique, I don't know what it's called.
Roadshow.
Thank you. Yeah, and also the family days, and I know there have been some other outreach efforts, and we had talked about even more. Is there any way to sort of know what the benefit is in terms of membership?
It's a great question that we do look at, and I think while we can't always prove causation, we can absolutely show correlation. So the last 3 years are the first time in Arkansas PBS history that we have seen our membership revenue above $3 million each year. And I take that very much as an indication of what people are seeing, because we did see membership revenue increase during the pandemic. Most PBS stations did, because people were at home and they wanted things to be able to do, and they also had, in some cases, more disposable income for making contributions. But coming out of the lockdown of the pandemic, the fact that we've seen increases in every single one of the last 3 years, keeping us above that $3 million point, I think that's a direct result of the person-to-person community engagement.
March, who do we contact to be volunteers for Family Day?
You can get in touch with me, and I will
Okay,
happily
I got
connect
your
you with
email
Katie
here.
Ashbrenner, our volunteer
Good.
and community
Bentley.
relations coordinator.
Well, yeah.
At myarkansaspbs.org.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I'm going to volunteer the dean.
Listen, she was there last year, and she was working it. She was busy.
Well, Courtney, now we've got a motion to authorize expense reimbursements, which is important to all of us. Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
Sorry.
No, that's fine.
How
How is it determined on the Arkansas PBS budget, not the foundation budget? It says foundation grants. Is that the singular grant or grants only from the foundation? Is that a Jason question?
That's a Jason question.
Are there multiple
what
grants?
goes in
or
there.
Are there grants to Arkansas PBS the only grants on our line item, on revenue?
Okay. Point of clarification, which report are you looking at? May I ask which page you're on?
It's page 9, Finance and Administration. It's fiscal year 23, it's a one sheet, cover sheet.
Okay. Page 9. Okay. In the revenues, the foundation grants is where our support comes in from the foundation. Now, some other granting, certain other organizations, when they are looking to also obtain tax benefits, they will grant it to the foundation and the foundation will pass it through to us. So then sometimes those grants, depending on the nature and the structure of their endowment, may flow through the foundation, and those items may be included in the foundation grants. The CPB community service grants, that is a combination of, okay, sorry, sir.
Well, that's all right. But my question is this line item only the funds granted by the PBS Foundation? Even though some others flow through them?
I'm going to say yes. That is my impression. That's my understanding, yes.
And so this may be a question then for you again, and I don't know if it's appropriate for this body, but how is it determined the percentage of your revenue that is then granted to Arkansas PBS?
It's an absolutely appropriate question. So we, and I'll try not to belabor this too much, so there are a few ways in which we provide funds to the network. The largest is what we call our programming grant to the network, and that helps them to pay the annual PBS dues for the on-air, the core on-air programming. And that is typically, this past year, I believe that was $1,125,000-ish, right in there, and that was 3% more than the previous year because we knew that the PBS dues were going to go up by at least that much. In FY25, we're increasing that again because we know the PBS dues are going up. So that's a fairly consistent number. The rest of it has to do with whatever restricted grants we are applying for at any given moment, and we do that in collaboration with the network. We're not going to apply for a restricted grant that they don't want or need. So in this past year, for example, we had restricted grants for the Northwest Passage, for Arkansas Treasures. We had support for technology purchases. So that number is going to fluctuate in any given year based on what we're applying for that makes up those restricted funds. So it's not so much a percentage of what our budget is as it is we have the programming grant commitment. We also pay a shared services agreement and rent to the network, so that's revenue for their use as well. And then there are those restricted grants. There are also some grants that we apply for where the money doesn't flow through the foundation at all. So the archival project that Courtney mentioned, that was $1.16 million, and that went directly from ANCRC to the network. If the towers transmitters application is approved, that money will not flow through the foundation. It will go directly to the network. So beyond the basics of the programming grant and our shared services and rent, and a small amount that we do for sports, the other things that fall into that are going to fluctuate from year to year just based on needs and opportunities.
Thank you very much. To what would you attribute the 20% decline that is on that?
The biggest decrease on that one is that in the previous year, we were paying out of our reserves, but it fell under this line for replacement of the master control system. And that was a grant of $582,000 that we made to the network, paid out over a period of 2 to 3 years.
That's, I would assume, a capital improvement.
It is.
That's right. So one, two, okay.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Jason.
Okay, Courtney, are you going to explain this motion to authorize expense reimbursements, or do we need a
I
vote?
believe Jason
I'll be happy to.
is going to do that.
We need to get it on the minutes that the commission authorizes for travel expense reimbursements. And so that's what this is. This is basically the commission taking a vote to acknowledge that we reimburse you for mileage and various travel expenses, and that is authorized by this body. So that's what this is.
That's got a lot of self-interest in it for us, but have we been unauthorized up until now?
I would like to get it on
am
the
I going to
minutes
jail? Did
that
the
this
chairman go to jail? That's
commission
what I wanna know.
authorizes the reimbursement of travel expenses, if you would, sir.
There's been a motion to hear a second.
Second.
All in favor say aye. Aye. Just so the chairman doesn't go to jail, that's the number one bill. Media showcase, Saji?
So we're going to show you a few things. Summertime is a interesting time where we're either in pre-production, post-production, and not often do things actually launch or premiere in the summer because people are on vacation, things like that. So we are, on October 1, we'll start sports prep for volleyball and football for the fall. And so what we're going to show you is what we have been doing in the last few months since we saw you. So a new program that is part of Arkansas Live is streaming the Little Rock Touchdown Club. And that is a very premier club that we wanted to share with our public and be able to, because we all know there's tons and tons of sports lovers in Arkansas. I take little tidbits from this and say it to my husband. He's like very impressed because I'm not a sport. So this was one a few weeks ago with Brett Favre. He came to Little Rock to meet with us, and this is a clip from that program. So we can play that.
Talking about how celebrity and fame and success allows you to do special things for people, which aren't a big deal for you, but really mean a lot to others. And so, thanks to Kevin Brooks, he sent me a video, a Twitter video of, it was back in, I think it was around October, I think, in 2022. So let's take a look at this this Twitter video, if we can, Anita, of Brett Favre saying a special hello to a young man by the name of Cole Bright.
Hey, Cole, it's Brett Favre. Look, I want to thank you for being a fan, but I'm a fan of you. You keep fighting. You're an inspiration to so many. And a lot of people are pulling for you and praying for you. So keep the fight going, my man. We're pulling for you.
Brett Favre sent you a video.
Amazing.
Wow.
What do you think?
That's so cool. I can't believe it.
Isn't that awesome?
Yeah.
So thank you, Paige.
Thank you, Paige.
So Cole, yeah. So Cole had osteosarcoma, which is bone cancer in his wrist. 1 in 3 survive. No new treatment has been developed in over 40 years. He was diagnosed on October 21st, 2022. Treatment began 3 days later. 18 rounds of chemo, 2 surgeries, 87 nights in the hospital. 10 months later, he was told he was cancer-free. Yes, that's right. He rang the bell. He rang the bell being cancer-free August 2nd, 2023, just celebrated a year in remission. And the best thing is that Cole Bright and his parents are here today. Cole, stand up, but can we turn up the lights? Where's Cole at? Where's Cole at? Where's he at? Come here, Cole, come here. Come here. Walk up there. Walk up there. the crowd. For the crowd. So we just wanted to say congratulations on beating cancer. How cool was it to have Brett Favre in that video?
Ooh, it was something. I mean,
Not as cool as it is to be here with you right now.
yeah, I mean, I didn't even know what to say then. I mean, like, it was like, I always, he's like, well, he's always a person that I kind of looked up to, and to have a video from him, it was something that really helped me, like, have the energy to, like, push through it and get through the tough times that I had, and it was hard, but just the people that were there for me, such as
He's a heck of a lot tougher than I am.
Let's give it up for Cole Bright, everybody. Congratulations.
If anyone at home is wondering,
So we're about to show that, but this has been a great series. There's still, I think, maybe 8 or 9 more events. Sam Pittman was on, Brett Favre, Ray Lewis, Eric
total,
Richard,
right? 15 total.
maybe, yeah. Eric Dickerson, Hunter Yurashek, I don't know if I'm saying that right,
Yeah.
is next week. So very exciting. It's been a lot of fun. Okay. Yes. Yeah.
I love it. I think it's great. There's no licensing fee to do that. It's free
That's correct.
for Arkansas PBS.
It's not costing us. It's part
Great
of.
content.
Yes, we have a live streaming unit.
Think about that. Ultimately, that's when it's Brett Favre, Eric Dickerson, Ray Lewis. It's national.
For
and
sure.
And so think about not live, but think about doing a 30-minute cut version and offering it to other markets, which could be potential revenue for Arkansas PBS. That's a golden moment right there that already has gone viral in its own way. But it's acknowledged, read by many of the guests that come in there, that that's the best touchdown club in America.
Mm-hmm.
And so why not serve it up for America? When it gets very provincial, when it's Sam Pittman, when it's Hunter Yurachek, maybe there's something that could be there. But particularly in these national, when Barry Switzer comes, or somebody that appeals to a broader market, just encourage you to think about that.
Pulling those particular stories together reminds Arkansas and some of the people who might have missed it the first round, see a compilation, and then go back and watch the archives of those events.
Absolutely.
Courtney, Lindsay, Sports Illustrated picked up Sam Pittman.
Illustrated picked us up like the first week of Sam Pittman. Yeah, got a thing from Sports Illustrated.
Great ready-made opportunity, low
There
cost,
we were, like
production
our
values
video,
are great.
Arkansas PBS on Sports Illustrated. It was very
Just
cool.
think if we could get a vet in an Argyle sweater bringing a dog and a cat.
Absolutely.
True.
So yeah, that's been great, and we can even email you guys the rest of the lineup that's coming up. So I think 8 more events, 9, something like that. So our next one, you guys got kind of a sneak peek. This has been a long process. It's a documentary. It's about a Fayetteville gentleman that went on a Northwest Passage with his friend, and this was a journey of perseverance. And so we're going to show you the trailer first. This comes out November 7th. The trailer first, and then we'll show you just a clip where they're kind of starting their journey. So we're very excited to show you this trailer.
You want to play both of those back to back?
Yeah, just go ahead and do them back to back. That's great. Thank you.
If anyone at home is wondering where we are right now on the map, right about here somewhere. It's officially the birthday of the Northwest Passage trip.
It wasn't until after we decided we were going to do it that we realized that, no one's ever actually wrote this thing in one season. We could be the first ones to ever do this.
That way.
It's one of those few places in the world you're truly wild.
What do you think, Adam? Grizzly or polar bear?
400 or 500 miles between villages, and there's nobody out there.
The weather's gonna get worse, more dangerous.
I feel like we're in over our heads here.
Really afraid this just cost me the trip. It's by far the hardest thing I've ever tried to do.
How far can we take this, and when does it become crazy, you know? Craziest thing we've ever done.
Craziest thing we've ever done, man. This is it. We are getting ready to send off for a 3.5 to 4 month expedition. Like 11 o'clock at night right now, full sun up in the sky, and we just can't wait until tomorrow morning to begin. So we're just gonna start. Manny Clark, signing off. See you in Baffin Island, folks. Beach number 1. As you can see, we are socked in with fog. Decided to pull it early and come in, get some sleep, let the fog pass, but it is coming. You can feel it. I'll tuck in my little sleeping cabin for the night. As you can see, it's still full daylight, even though it's 2 o'clock in the morning right now. In the Arctic, it's always daylight in the summer, so you need to wear a eye mask. Oh, you don't know how comfortable this is. It's so comfortable.
That was a tough first day, mentally. And just kind of the whole enormity of what we're setting out to do just hit me like a ton of bricks. And I had to work really hard to not have like a full-blown panic attack. I feel like we're in over our heads here.
So that was Passage. It is still a working title, but I think that's the one that we're going to go with. Our next one on the showcase is also a working title at this point, called Cash and Bates. 2 legislators chose 2 individuals to be put.
Well, the
The legislators, right, okay. To be put in D.C. at Statuary Hall, and that was Johnny Cash and Daisy Bates. So they commissioned these 2 sculptors to create these, to go in there. And it's been a long process because we have to wait for that spot to do the unveiling. So Daisy Bates happened in May, and Johnny Cash is happening on 2 weeks. So we'll have the unveiling there. Filmmaker Nathan Willis is doing this for us. And this is just a clip from it. We had plenty, but we want to kind of save those for the final documentary. But this one is the sculptors, kind of their process, making the sculptures. So we can take a look.
Yeah, I thought about that a lot, what she should be wearing, and obviously she was a great dresser, even when she wasn't in the business suit, like in the photo that I used for the pose, she is wearing a dress, but I just thought that was a nice touch because she did wear business suits a lot, and I think it expresses that idea of a business leader, which she also was and isn't as that's probably not the first thing people think of when they think of her, but she was a business leader, which takes a lot of courage and acumen in that time period. And then to think that she got basically run out of business because of her stances politically probably makes it all the more important to include that idea of a business leader.
A few years ago in Little Rock, Arkansas, we tried to speak the truth in my newspaper. We talked about freedom and justice and human dignity.
I think a lot of this is, for me at this point too, is are the eyes. I want him looking at you, but I want to make sure to focus the eyes so that they're really kind of giving that sense of looking through you more than looking at you. It can be the most subtle little changes that do it, and it's so close that you just kind of play with it, move it about. These very subtle movements and changes, and then many times it's like poof. I feel like what I'm really kind of after is that you're getting him in this moment of really deep thoughts, these recollections of the tougher aspects of his life. You're almost feeling a little uncomfortable in a sense when you come up that you've interrupted someone at a very private moment. And that makes it more universal. Everybody can relate to those emotions. Everybody can't relate to being a world famous, icon. But everybody's carried burdens that have haunted them their whole lives.
I became a person of the lowest order of character. I mean, I was making a lot of money at personal appearances. Lived in a fine home and drive the finest car, wear good clothes if I wanted to, which I didn't. I'd gotten to where nothing really mattered except getting those pills and keeping a good supply going. And when I'd run out of prescriptions and there wasn't a doctor handy, I would resort to anything to get them. I'd steal them from my friends, my loved ones. If I knew where there were any, I'd get them. So the pills took over. They completely took control of my life. The feelings and the love of my loved ones mattered not in the least.
Okay, that's feeling better. That's feeling better.
So, yeah, and you're really seeing a really early draft because, of course, music and score happen last after we can look at it and build the score in there, and archives until we get the final, purchase of it. Those things will be layered in, but we wanted to at least show something. This is an interesting tidbit. Kevin Cressy is in the studio behind us with Shane Broadway, who was instrumental in this project, and Janice Kearney, who is an expert historian on Daisy Bates. They are filming right next to us for Arkansas Week. So, yeah. So we have just one more, and it's only a minute long, but from the true success of Arkansas Treasure Season 1, it's coming back for Season 2. And so we wanted to announce it and show you a little promo. Danielle Musselman was the host of the first season, but of course, she has relocated. So at the end of the promo, you'll see who the new host is.
Kate Askew here, the books, photography, and paper goods evaluator for Arkansas Treasures. And I have great news. Season 2 is coming your way soon.
These are some pieces that I purchased from an estate sale, Abel McAllister, and they were done for the Red Cross, and it was basically for World War II soldiers.
All of them that have this notation, I would think that probably doubles their initial value. I think with those notations, we're going to bump them up to $450 each.
Okay.
So I think the $20 investment paid off.
My dad, he bought it back in
59.
Wonderful amount about the condition because it's in very, very good condition.
Thank you.
This came up in an auction today that it could easily reach into the $14,000 to $16,000 range.
4 Elvis photos from Fort Taffy.
Signatures look good. These images are fantastic. I think what you have here are 4 true Arkansas treasures. Join us as people from across the natural state share the unexpected and extraordinary antiques and collectibles they have discovered and find out what they're worth. Learn more about how to watch on the Arkansas PBS website at myarpbs.org/Arkansas Treasures. Thank you.
We're so excited he's our new host, and that wraps up our local showcase. I'll pass it to.
Can I ask
Yeah,
a quick question?
sure.
Will the stuff on Daisy Bates, the video on Daisy Bates and Johnny Cash, will that get picked up for people to access at the Capitol or?
So
US Capitol? I
it
mean-
will be available like on our YouTube for internationally, like for anyone. I don't know if we have any. We have funds, so that was one of the restrictive funds. We have funds from Foundation for Cash and Bates, so we haven't. It'll air in the spring, so I think we're still making the marketing. So that sounds.
Pursue some
Yeah,
form of
we'll do
national,
something. Screeners
distribution
and a lot
as
of
well.
yeah, and we have plenty of funds to do something good. Yeah.
I'm only thinking
Yeah.
generations later.
Absolutely.
If they stick around as long as the last ones did, you know, people may want to know who these people
Yes,
were.
yes.
Because went through Statuary Hall and I remember seeing it when I was much younger and didn't know who these people were. So.
Absolutely, and there are the younger generations. You do have to share with them their importance and.
And one other tidbit is on October 23rd at Hot Springs Documentary Film Festival, we're going to do a screening, an in-progress screening. So we're going to do what when I was at the festival, what we did with the Glenn Campbell documentary, where we started one year showing clips. Nathan and a panel of people will talk about the history, behind the scenes, all that in between the clips, rather than seeing the whole film. Then the following year, it comes back with the full premiere. So that's October 23rd. If you happen to be in Hot Springs, come to it.
I'm going to continue singing my national song.
Yes.
The first 3 things we saw are national. I don't know how it works on the other end, the timeliness or whatever it is. I think we should exhaust every option to make that Arkansas content that has a global audience.
That's our goal.
Well,
take our stories, tell them to our own people, and then tell those stories, the stories we want to tell, to the rest of the world.
And
that's our
and
objective.
that's it. I mean, that moment with Cressy, is that?
Yeah, Kevin Cressy.
And his work, that's powerful stuff right there.
Mm-hmm.
And then I don't know how you afford the songs. I don't know if you are gonna be able to have any cash songs in there.
We
but
do.
That's well done if you did that. That's
it's
amazing.
very hard. I'm
But-
learning a lot about
Daisy
getting
Bates.
Johnny Cash
Archival.
money.
Daisy Bates is one of those stories that, I mean, she was rejected because she was a woman leader, and so the NAACP even marginalized people like Daisy Bates. And so this is a story that has not been told to many people, and they need to see this. And if it inspires other states are doing this as well, maybe you get ahead of the curve on what are they recreating for their statuary halls. I also think it would be a very interesting topic of what happened to the other statues, because I've been hearing the behind the scenes of what.
I think they're living somewhere in.
Well,
where-
one specifically
temporarily.
is, and one may not have a home.
Right. That's
And
what I heard.
and people don't want it. And so it goes back to your point.
Maybe
People
that's
are forgotten in history. There was a reason they were propelled to Statuary Hall.
Right.
And yet now none of us know why. And one of them likely will be in a warehouse, if not destroyed.
Yeah.
So that's an Arkansas perspective on that, but
Yeah.
that's a potential opportunity there
Yeah,
too.
it is.
Okay.
And Johnny Cash will be the only musician in Statuary Hall.
Yay.
Like,
And one other
an
interesting
Arkansas
thing
musician.
is that as we started to look for archival to support this story, you know, of course, there's tons for Johnny Cash. You know, you have to stick to a budget, but there's a lot of it out there. There is almost nothing out there for Daisy Bates. So, which is so sad, and you think, you know, I know we're working to figure out how to.
We have added on our third archivist. It's that difficult, where we had one for Cash, and it is really, it's.
Which is part of the story.
Sure.
It is.
Why is there none?
Yeah,
Right.
and those are things like if we did a screener and had those people on, like we're doing at the Hot Springs, they talk about those things, about how we don't have. This becomes a part of Arkansas history. I can see it being a part of a lot of studies that we do in higher ed, or, you know, if they wanted it to be. Yeah.
A final thought on Passage. That is so obviously a global show. What I watch that, and I think there's so many. You talked about the Hot Springs Documentary Film Festival. I think we should pull back the curtain on what it would take for an Arkansan to submit and produce an idea that could collaborate with Arkansas PBS, because that's not an Arkansas story, it's an Arkansan's
Right.
story. And so just understanding, not necessarily specifically that, but what does it take? You have an idea for a documentary. What does it take? And you just be very intentional about it. And also clear, not everybody's idea, if anybody's idea, is going to be produced. But if we're collaborating with an Arkansan to tell a global story, what are the other Arkansans are out there doing very unique things that could have a global audience? And this could be the launch for those stories as well. So a method by which filmmakers could submit to Arkansas PBS.
We had a site for that, and we, you know, it sort of hung the shingle out. Then you realize that there's a lot of mechanics that go into when a lot of things come in. You know, you have to sort of be very clear about what you're looking for, number one, as clear as you possibly can be. And then there has to be staff time devoted to the things that come in. Because over the last couple, 2 or 3 years, we have really put the word out amongst filmmakers, been very visible out there in the independent community. We will be at Hot Springs because there's a second year of a CPB-funded film forum. So all of these young filmmakers come in. There'll be people from stations and states all around. So that'll be interesting. But you know, we've had to develop a green light process that works, and the time to be able to devote to giving fair shake to everybody's project that comes in. It's a time-consuming thing, but we're excited about the number of things that are now coming into us that we have an awareness of that are going on, not just in Arkansas, but maybe an Arkansas filmmaker, somebody somewhere else that's telling a story. So you're right. I mean, there's a lot of potential in that. Things that are already made or you know, almost made.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, people like these guys, you know, that have something they're doing or an idea for a film, and is there a way we don't, you know, it's tricky because we can't financially support a whole lot of films, but we can with our expertise and our time, and you know.
Well, and I think we're public, and so much of this industry is shrouded, and nobody really knows how to access anything.
True.
So, with the caveat that you may not do any of them, but at least telling that story. I don't know if anything's proprietary, but how did that get off the ground with Arkansas PBS? How did this? Well, it should be told.
the Fayetteville representative.
That and
I mean, he
but that
spotted
gives-
these guys, and I guess you had some interaction with them. And
with them, weren't you?
Yeah, they kicked me out.
They kicked him. They kicked West out of the boat. They didn't want him to go.
But if you're ever at the Fayetteville Farmers Market, the little lady selling the alpaca hats and scarves is Adam's mother. And Adam makes his living do all these adventures by shearing alpacas all over the world. I didn't know you had to go to apprentice, go be an apprentice and get certified and everything else to shear alpacas. And he travels over to Europe and everything, shearing these things. On his other time, he builds tree houses in Fayetteville and around. So if y'all got some grandkids and you want a really cool tree house built, he'll be the one to do
Oh,
it.
that's fantastic.
But Maddie it can't be announced, but it looks like he's going to have his own TV show on a national network, which of course will help us too. And he's got a very significant presence on YouTube right now. And Adam I asked him one day, I had lunch with him, I said, how'd you get into all this adventure? Because he sailed across the Pacific. How do you're in Fayetteville, Arkansas. He sailed across the Pacific by himself. He was going to sail around the world, but COVID hit, and he couldn't get into the harbors. So he had to sell his boat and fly home, He rode across Mongolia on a horse. He's been in the outback. He's done all this stuff. And I asked him one day, I said, how'd you get into all this? He says, you know what? He said, you just have to go. He says, I got out of high school and I got me a ticket to, I can't remember where it was, Malawi or somewhere. And I just went, and they're both just fascinating individuals. And it was they got on that, you saw them on that dirt road. There's other teams that are trying to do this. And they got close. Another team, I think, got close this summer, but they took the wrong route or something like that. I don't know. It's still open, I think. And, of course, these pictures of the Arctic Sea, I mean, it is cold, and those waves are this high, and it tears up shoulder joints. Of Adam's shoulder went out, so he had to drop out. And Matty continued alone for as long as he could till his equipment busted. And but when they drove up there, these other teams were very well financed from all over the world, and they'd fly in their boats. These guys built those two boats themselves. I mean, Adam's a carpenter. They built their own boats. There's you can drive to the Arctic, but it's on a dirt road for about 1,000 miles. Adam's got an old F-150. They drove that thing to the Arctic. The other teams were flying in and stuff with their boats, and they got in the middle of this dirt road to the Arctic, and they had a flat tire, which you expect no problem. Adam had checked the tires. They had a good spare and everything. All they had to do is get out and turn. Got out, got that tire off, and it had the wrong rim on it. It wouldn't fit. So here they are.
That's all in the film.
Yeah. They're all out in the middle of nowhere, and they don't have the right tire. Anyway, one of them hitchhikes to really get the tire. Anyway, they're two fascinating guys, and it's a fascinating story.
It is, and this whole process, with filmmaking, that collaboration with Adam and Maddie, with three of our creators who went in and watched probably hundreds of hours of footage, boiled it down to that 90 minutes, directed that post-production, told their story in a compelling way. I mean, it's just been a beautiful partnership of those groups. Do what?
The ending is,
yes.
We're
So
working
we still have,
on the ending because they did not finish the race.
Hey.
I know.
You know that. She just said that.
Will they try again?
Spoiler alert. So, there's some finesse to figuring out, what is it you're leaving the audience with? What did they learn? What changed, with that? So we're working on that right now.
Yeah, it's a cool show.
It's great.
What's the date for that?
November 7th.
Do we have a date yet?
November 7th.
Well,
Yeah.
yes, maybe.
Yeah.
And Sergeant,
No.
No.
I mean, I think one surprise was that Maddie, both of them were good filmmakers, photographers. The
Absolutely.
footage they got
Beautiful.
is incredible. With
It
the drones,
is, yeah.
the whales, and everything else. Yeah.
It's amazing. I mean, it took the guys several months to go through. There was a lot to pick through, and yeah, they filmed it all. So they're enduring this very challenging thing and filming themselves. And I mean, it's just
Were you
the whole story.
partners at that time, or was it all post?
Oh,
No,
yeah,
we were partners
You
at
were
that time.
partners
We
at
were
that
partners
Yep.
from the time they drove up there.
I just think it would be very illuminating for Arkansans to know how that partnership came together. And it also raises the bar very high. You know, from the film business, everybody thinks if they've got an idea that that's all you need.
Right.
They had much more than that, and all these skills and all. So I think it would be inspiring for people, okay, I've got to up my game in order to be a partner with an organization like Arkansas PBS. But again, pulling back the curtain on that world, I think is very important for people that are aspiring filmmakers, adults that want to do something like that. I think we can find a way to do that without overwhelming us with submissions, or maybe even just do a quick story about how that works and what could make you potentially worthy as a partner as well.
Yeah.
Oh, but by the way, I found out the other day, I didn't know. Maddie lives in the middle of the Yukon up in Alaska in some tiny cabin, you know, I don't know, hundreds of miles away from somewhere else. I don't know how you can get a hold of him. I assume he's got internet or something.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Yeah.
it's a fascinating story.
I didn't know he has a new show coming on.
Huh?
Well, I didn't know he has a new show.
Yeah.
too. They're
I'd probably
very
get killed if I mentioned what it was, but it's pretty impressive.
really, yeah. And you just really like these guys. Like, they're talented, plus they're just good. I mean, you know, just has a
I don't
well-rounded
know how
story.
you live out in the wilderness for most of your life and you're still normal. You know,
Right.
They're really normal guys.
What is
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
Okay,
So, yeah, that wraps up mine. I think Veronica is ready for
yeah.
national.
So we are going to talk about a couple of national shows that are coming this fall, in the next quarter. There's a lot of good programming coming, so it was tricky to narrow it down to two. But the first, along the lines of the art that we were talking about with our Cash and Bates, we have a Ken Burns documentary, and you know, Ken Burns has traditionally covered American subjects. This is his first non-American subject, but is a universal one that has touched many of our lives in Leonardo da Vinci and art. And it will tell the story of his curiosity and his creations. It's a 4-hour series. It's 2 nights, November 18th and 19th. So we're going to take a look at just a sneak peek at that.
It shows us something between what you see and what you don't see.
This is the story of the most curious man in history.
The influence of Leonardo's vision was enormous.
He's doing things no one had ever done before. And that is simply astounding.
So that's our first one. And our second one, we have so many great mysteries coming this fall. And I couldn't narrow it down to one, so I found a great compilation video that shows us a few different ones that I think are some of the most anticipated titles of the fall. So we'll look at that, and then I'll talk about the titles and the premiere dates.
Think of all the people out there frightened.
2 dead bodies in quick succession. We're dealing with a serial killer. You were the key witness. What did you see?
The landscape of criminal investigation.
Of course.
We're not going to miss this, are we?
We are all in this together.
Flower Murders and Van der Valk are going to premiere on September 15th. And the Marlowe Murder Club, which I'm personally really excited about, I think that one's going to be fantastic, premieres October 27th. So those are just a few, but Yeah, that is our sneak peek at National.
I think Courtney would be doing events, but she stepped down.
I believe the upcoming events are in your handout. Are there any questions or any items of note there? I believe it was right after the foundation report.
Yes.
Key events and dates, a number of things coming up.
You have the floor for key events and dates.
I was so quick.
We have.
So quick, jeez. Okay.
So we're on upcoming
I got
events
'em.
now, I think.
Yes, so this month in September, and there's a ton of things here. I'm just going to hit some highlights, but they're all in your packet. Today, on the 12th, we have a Read to Succeed event in Conway, and then again on September 17th. And these Read to Succeed events and Ready to Learn are dotted throughout the fall in different places. Tomorrow we have an Arkansas Live, which is a live stream of Knowing the West at Crystal Bridges, which I'm really looking forward to. And then skipping to October, we have the debates from the 7th, during the week of the 7th of October. We have, as Marge mentioned, the 2 family days, one in Springdale on the 12th, and one in in Conway here on the 19th. And I mentioned, well, I'm not going to re-mention that October event, but in October there will be a in-progress screening of the film about Cash and Bates and the behind the scenes of the statues. On the 24th of October, Arkansas Live will cover the Latino Hall of Fame. On the 26th, there will be the Mid-America Regional Emmy ceremonies, and as we've been sitting here, we have, they're rolling out the nominations. We have 6 so far, 7. We have 7 so far. And then if you noticed in your packet, we also got nominations for 8 National Public Media Awards on this round. In November, our wonderful Mr. Rogers Neighborhood Sweater Drive runs from November 1st through the 30th, and that grows every year. We get more and more warm garments for Arkansans across the state for the winter. We have on the 2nd of November the volleyball state championships. On the 7th, another Arkansas Live, which is the Arkansas Century Farm Awards. And then on the 18th, we have a big national premiere, the Leonardo da Vinci premiere of the Ken Burns documentary on Leonardo da Vinci. And that's rounding into December. We will have football championships. So again, there's a lot of smaller things on there, but I've just hit the highlights. So any questions about any of that?
Any other comments from commissioners?
Yes, please.
Yes, sir.
I wish I'd thought of this before, but one of the missing pieces in broadcasting of football games are the halftime shows. The halftime show at the Arkansas UAPB game was fantastic, and only those that were there saw it.
Right.
It's something that, another thing to consider is.
Can I speak on that?
Yes.
So the first year that we did football, we attempted it.
Mm-hmm.
The bigger schools were okay. The smaller the school got, the harder it was to get enough sound out of the bands and mic the field because they're playing football. You can't just go out there and put a whole bunch of microphones in.
But I'm not talking about the high school programs. I'm talking about the UAPB band and the Arkansas band that played separate shows and then came together in one unifying show that probably took about 15, 20 minutes, something like that. You've got an opportunity there for something that nobody gets to see most people, and even people that are there, go to the concession stand. But to see that experience and to hear that powerful sound is very impressive. And so, and there are other.
Well, the showcase of bands would be the band showcase that happens, the high school band showcase. I mean, we do spelling bee and we do a lot of Arkansas stuff, but that.
They have a showcase for the bands, yeah.
Just another thing that's ready-made, and it's show, and so something to consider. So appreciate that.
Okay. Any other comments?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for reminding us about the strategic planning by putting the bullet points on the back and what we've done so far. That's very helpful. We took a lot of time to do that. So just seeing where each of our priorities, what's been done to address them is very helpful.
Thank you. Okay, our next commission meeting is December 12th. And with that, the chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there a second? Motion been made and it's second. All in favor, say aye. All against, say nay. It's time for lunch.
You can stay.
Yeah, you don't get many nays on that one.
Thank you, everybody.